Welcome to Advanced Astrology Faculty, the roundtable where we treat the sky as a living text rather than a set of cookbook rules. I'm Dr. Elena Voss.
And I'm Professor Marcus Hale. Today, we're joined by two colleagues whose work routinely forces the rest of us to revise our lecture notes: Dr. Sophia Rinaldi and Dr. Arjun Mehta.
This episode is deliberately advanced. We assume listeners already work with whole sign or Placidus houses, understand essential dignities, and have moved past sun sign psychology. We're going after secondary progressions, perfections, solar arcs, Time Lord systems, fixed star paranatalanta, and the ethical tension between determinism and agency.
If you're looking for what does my Venus mean, this is not that conversation. Let's begin with secondary progressions.
Secondary progressions remain one of the most undertaught yet clinically powerful techniques. 1 day after birth equals 1 year of life. The progressed moon moves roughly 1 degree per month, the progressed sun 1 degree per year. The real work is not the exact hit but the phase. When the progressed moon enters a new sign or crosses an angle, the emotional weather of the entire year shifts. I watch the progressed moon's relationship to the natal sun more closely than most textbook aspects. A progressed full moon often coincides with culmination or public visibility, a progressed new moon with the quiet seeding of a new cycle that may not be obvious for years.
In psychological practice, I treat the progressed moon as the moving emotional body. Clients rarely report the exact day of a progressed lunation, but they describe the season. The danger is mechanical application, telling someone your progressed Venus is conjunct Mars, so you will fall in love. That's fortune telling. The useful question is, what desire structure is becoming conscious right now? And how is the ego defending against or collaborating with it?
Traditionalists sometimes dismiss progressions because they are modern. I disagree. The symbolic day for a year is consistent with the ancient idea that the microcosm mirrors the macrocosm at different scales of time. In Hellenistic practice, we look first at the annual perfection and the releasing from spirit or fortune. Progressions become a secondary overlay that shows the quality of the year rather than the primary Time Lord.
From a Vedic Western hybrid view, secondary progressions map surprisingly well onto the concept of dasha periods when you treat the progressed planets as activating the natal nakshatra lords. I've seen cases where a progressed Mars entering a critical degree coincides with the start of a Mars dasha or subperiod. Correlation is not causation, but the pattern is too frequent to ignore in clinical work.
Let's go deeper on the progressed moon. Many students stop at sign changes. The real precision comes from tracking the progressed moon through the houses and its aspects to natal planets within a 3 degree orb. When the progressed moon applies to a natal Saturn, the emotional tone of the period often carries themes of restriction, maturation, or necessary endings.
And the progressed sun is slower but more structural. A progressed sun changing signs is a multi year identity shift. Clients in their 40s and 50s often experience the progressed sun entering a new element as a fundamental reorientation of purpose.
One practical tip: always calculate the progressed chart for the current year and then animate the progressed moon month by month. The sequence of aspects tells a story that a single snapshot cannot. Now, let's move to annual perfections. Annual perfections are deceptively simple. The ascendant advances one sign per year. The lord of the perfected house becomes the time lord for that year. Yet the technique only becomes powerful when you combine it with the condition of that planet in the natal chart and its current transits and progressions. A year when the 10th house is perfected and its ruler is Saturn in Capricorn in the fourth will feel very different from the same perfection when Saturn is dignified and angular. The Time Lord does not create events out of nothing, it activates the natal promise.
I layer solar arcs on top of perfections. Solar arc directions, everything advances at the rate of the secondary progressed sun, give a cleaner hit list. When a solar arc planet reaches an angle or a natal planet within a degree, and that planet is also the annual Time Lord, the year tends to be decisive. I treat the combination as a red flag alert for both opportunity and crisis, never as a prediction of specific events.
From the psychological side, the Time Lord shows which part of the psyche is currently on stage. If the 12th house ruler is the annual lord, the work of the year is often about what has been repressed or projected. Clients who resist that material frequently experience the year as mysterious obstacles. Those who lean into the 12th house process often report profound but private transformation.
In the Indian tradition, we have multiple interlocking Time Lord systems Vimshotari, Yogini, Charadashas. The Western profection is closer to a simplified annual lord. When I see a Western client whose profection lord is under heavy transit, while the corresponding dasha lord is also activated, the convergence is striking. I no longer treat the systems as competing. I treat them as different resolutions of the same underlying temporal structure.
A common student error is to treat the perfection lord as the only planet that matters. You must also examine the house that is being activated, the aspects the lord receives by transit, and any planets that occupy the perfected sign. The whole configuration is the year.
Solar returns can be integrated here as well. When the solar return ascendant falls in the same sign as the annual perfection, the year often feels more personal or eventful. When they diverge, the solar return may describe external conditions, while the perfection describes the internal developmental task.
Most modern astrologers still treat fixed stars as optional flavor. That is a loss. The Parana Telonta, stars that rise, culminate, set, or anti-culminate at the same time as a planet in the location of birth, are location-specific and therefore highly individual. A planet culminating with Regulus carries a different signature than the same planet rising with Antares. I require students to calculate the actual parans for the birthplace rather than relying on ecliptic longitude alone.
Hellenistic sources already noted the importance of stars on the angles. We have simply forgotten the observational rigor. When a client has a tight paron of Mars with Algol, I do not jump to violence. I look at the house and the condition of Mars. The star intensifies and focuses. It does not rewrite the natal promise.
In predictive work, the transiting or progressed planet that activates a natal paran often coincides with periods when the star's mythic theme becomes lived. These are rarely gentle periods, but they are frequently periods of accelerated individuation.
Psychologically, fixed stars function like archetypal amplifiers. They pull the planetary principle toward a more collective or mythic register. That can be inspiring or overwhelming depending on the ego's capacity to metabolize the material.
A practical method, once you have the Paran list, note which stars are in Paran with the angles or with the luminaries. Those become the signature stars of the chart. Then watch for transits and progressions that activate those same stars by Paran in real time.
One caution: star meanings in the literature are often medieval or Renaissance and carry cultural baggage. We must update the interpretive language for contemporary clients while respecting the traditional intensity associated with certain stars.
This is the part of the conversation that makes students uncomfortable. The more precise our techniques become, the more the question of free will presses. If secondary progressions, perfections, solar arcs, and dashas all converge on a difficult configuration, what exactly are we saying to the client?
I refuse the false binary. The chart describes the field of probability and meaning, not a script. Advanced technique increases resolution, it does not increase fatalism. The ethical obligation is to speak the pattern clearly while leaving the client's response open. This year, the eighth house lord is activated and under hard aspect is responsible. You will lose money or someone will die is not.
In practice, I use the language of weather rather than fate. The emotional climate is likely to be stormy. The question is whether you build a better roof or pretend the sky is clear. Clients who have worked with progressions for years begin to recognize the seasons themselves and make different choices inside them.
Both the Hellenistic and the classical Indian traditions contain sophisticated discussions of Daiva and Purushakara, divine order and human effort. The most advanced practitioners I know hold both without collapsing into either pure determinism or pure voluntarism. The chart shows the terrain, the person still walks.
And sometimes the most therapeutic intervention is to show the client that the difficult configuration is temporary in the progressed or perfection sense. That alone can restore agency.
Another ethical point: advanced techniques can create an illusion of certainty. We must continually remind ourselves and our students that astrology is a language of symbols, not a laboratory science. Humility is part of mastery.
I also encourage practitioners to track their own predictions over years. Keep a private log. What actually unfolded? Where were you accurate? Where did you overreach? That feedback loop is more valuable than any textbook.
Let's close with a few advanced questions that come up repeatedly. How do you weight a solar arc direction versus a secondary progressed aspect when both are exact in the same month?
I give slightly more weight to the solar arc for external events and to the secondary progression for internal or developmental shifts. When both coincide, the period is usually significant on both levels.
I also check whether the same planet is a Time Lord that year. Triple convergence is rare and usually marks a turning point.
When the annual Perfection Lord is retrograde in the natal chart, the year may feel like a review or a delayed manifestation rather than a straightforward new beginning. Timing can feel sticky.
Is there a coherent way to integrate the outer planets into Hellenistic Time Lord systems without breaking the original logic?
The pure Hellenistic systems did not use Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto as Time Lords. One respectful method is to keep the classical seven as the primary lords and treat the outer planets as modifiers. Another is to use them only in secondary systems such as progressions and solar arcs.
In practice, many of us use a hybrid: classical lords for the annual structure, outer planets for the longer generational and collective layer.
Advanced technique is only as valuable as the maturity of the person using it. The sky is precise, interpretation remains a human art.
If today's conversation leaves you with more questions than answers, we have done our job.
Continue to test every technique against lived experience.
And remember that every system, Western, Hellenistic, Vedic, is a map, not the territory.
This has been Advanced Astrology Faculty. Until next time, may your observations be rigorous and your interpretations humane.